Hello there, people of the internet. How's everyone doing today? I'm doing alright, thanks for asking. Today I'm out here on my gun range and I decided to make a video on a rifle that I haven't exactly gotten the chance to shoot yet, and I will be shooting it today, but not nearly as much as I'd like to. Today I'm whipping out my Type 38 Arisaka. Obviously this one right here has been sporterized. Now you might be looking at this thing and you might be thinking to yourself, hey man, this is a really awkward looking sporterization, and that's kind of what I thought too whenever I first saw this thing. I picked this up at my local gun store, picked it up for stupidly cheap, as I do a good portion of my rifles. I typically don't buy a rifle unless it's a really good deal or something I really want, like my M1 Garand. But I saw this thing on the wall and I'm like, wow, that looks really awkward. And I decided to go ahead and check it out. So I picked this thing up and I'm holding it and I'm like, wow, despite how awkward this thing looks, it still balances really, really well. It holds really, really well. The stock on it, despite being sporterized, is actually quite nice. So I decided to get it. Now don't get me wrong, it is not exactly a beautiful looking sporterization. Definitely not the greatest job I've ever seen, but it is comfortable. It is a comfortable sporterization. It balances well. I might replace the stock at some point in time, but at the same time, I also absolutely love how long this barrel is, or how long it looks in comparison to the sporterized stock. I mean, it's just a normal sized Arisaka barrel, but with the short stock, it looks absolutely huge. So I might just keep the sporterized stock on this thing just for that reason. Now the keen eye of you might be looking at this little quote-unquote crack in the stock and you're like, hey man, that stock's broken, you gotta replace it. This stock is in fact not broken. It is not broken at all. In order to make manufacturing of these stocks a little bit easier, the Japanese would cut them into two-piece stocks. Not only would that make manufacturing processes easier, but it also made the stock significantly stronger, since you had the grain of the wood actually digging itself into this other hunk of the stock right here. If you look at the direction that the grain of the wood is actually traveling in, it digs itself directly into this stock. So if you apply pressure on this, you are far less risking cracking the stock or breaking off a hunk of the butt plate right here. You can also see right here on the end of the butt right here, I don't have a butt plate for this rifle quite yet. It is on its way. But you can see at the end of the stock right here, it is in fact dovetailed in. If you want to see more information about this right here, I am talking to somebody, potentially going to do a couple of collaborations, but we are at least going to do a couple of shout outs to this guy. I'll link his YouTube channel down below. He's only got about 50 subscribers right now, and he definitely deserves a lot more. USNA or US Navy 98, go check him out. He definitely knows what he's doing. He's got a voice that can seduce a deaf person. And he deserves way, way more credit than what he's getting right now. I've been watching his stuff. Personally, I really like what he's putting out. Quick history lesson behind our Type 38 Arisaka. This right here was adopted by the Japanese in 1905, which was the 38th year of the Meiji, however that's pronounced, dynasty. I will spell that out, M-E-I-J-I, I think that's how it's spelled. It was the 38th year of that, and it was, this rifle right here, the Type 38, replaced the Type 30 rifle, which had a whole slew of problems. Not only was it completely unreliable, apparently, and it did not function very well, but it was also very unsafe to the shooter. You're gonna hear some bird noises in the background. I have chickens, I have roosters, I have peacocks, I have all kinds of stuff. You'll just have to get over it. But this right here was adopted in 1905, designated the Type 38 as the 38th year, and it was used by the Japanese up until the end of World War II. It was during World War II that the Japanese decided their little tiny 6.5 millimeter Arisaka round was a little too wimpy for what they wanted. They wanted something a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, so they adopted the Type 99, I think it was, bolt-action rifle, along with a couple of others, that fired the 7.7 Japanese cartridge, which is the same exact cartridge that their machine guns, anti-aircraft things, support gunners, small arms of that nature, things that you might need to do more than just use as anti-personnel armaments. kind of butchered that sentence, but that's fine. I'll continue on with the history lesson. The Japanese were getting their absolute asses handed to them by the United States and everyone else during the Second World War. And although 7.7 Jap did see a lot of extensive use in World War II, eventually the Japanese, they decided to themselves, hey, trying to, logistically speaking, trying to give these soldiers 6.5, these soldiers 7.7 and whatnot, not really working out for us, especially since we're giving them these rifles and they almost look the same and we're mixing up the ammo. We don't want these Japanese soldiers to be without ammunition or try firing the wrong kinds of ammunition. Shit gets dangerous. It was a logistical nightmare to the Japanese, so they did eventually just go back to 6.5, which most of the Japanese military had at the time. I felt this little niche in my stock. I thought it was a bug for a second. I was like, what the hell am I grabbing here? Now the Type 38, which is what we're talking about right here, it is basically a Mauser. Same exact Mauser action, Mauser style. It even has the Mauser bolt release on the side. Although the safety does look different, it does function in the same exact way that a Mauser does. Like this little, what would I call this? This little nipple right here on the safety mechanism. Just like on a Mauser, over here would be fire. You push that and you flip it up. In the upward position, it's on safe, or I think on the Mauser that's disassembly. I'm pretty sure on this it is as well. I will also point out that our bolt handle here is kind of little and wimpy. Why the Japanese decided to implement such tiny little bolt handles, I'll never understand. Maybe they're just used to grabbing small things. I don't know. We're throwing way too much shade at the Japanese on this. So I don't have a lot of ammunition for this thing. In fact, I only have one singular round of what I think is 6.5 Jap. Now, if you ever decide to get yourself one of these old Arisakas, go ahead and give it a look. Look at the bolt, make sure there's locking lugs on the bolt, and look inside the barrel, make sure there's rifling inside the barrel. Otherwise, you might have a training rifle, and you don't want to go firing live ammunition, real ammunition, out of a training rifle. I apologize, I got the damn hiccups again. I don't know what it is about me coming out here, but I seem to get the hiccups whenever I come out here. Don't fire live ammunition or real ammunition through a training rifle. The gun will explode, and that is one of the main reasons why these rifles have a notorious reputation for detonating and hurting their shooters. So this 6.5 by 50 round that I have right here doesn't actually say 6.5 Jap. It just says 6.5 by 50. Pretty sure this is a Jap round, and it does have a semi-rim on it. Not all that much of rim, but a semi-rim. So we're gonna go ahead and try to fire this. It does load, it does chamber. So we're going to assume that she's good. Worst case scenario, even if this is not the correct round, which I'm fairly like 99.99% sure it is, I just don't have an actual Jap round to compare it to. But worst case scenario, I have no doubts that this Mauser action will keep me safe, and there are vent holes on top of the receiver of this rifle, so even if we do have a ruptured case, I should be fine. I'm also going to point out that I do believe this round right here is a hand load. Not only is it a hand load, but I don't know who loaded it. Like, I don't know what kind of conditions it's been sitting in or for how long. But this one seems okay. I had another Jap round that was from the same batch of ammo that I got, but we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing. I don't have the butt plate for this thing. I do have the butt plate coming. I feel like this rifle at least deserves a butt plate. But before I go investing a bunch of my time and effort into this thing, I want to make sure that it at least fires. From what I can tell, the firing pin is intact, the firing pin spring is intact, the bolt seems completely steady. This is not a training rifle, so we should be good to go. Assuming, of course, that this round fires. I don't know if this round's going to fire. It's PPU ammo, supposedly, but it might be a hand load. So I'm not certain. Let's go ahead and find out. Oh, that was cool. Okay, well, first impressions, it did fire. Not pressure stuck, that's a good sign. Yeah, alright, firing pin worked. Okay, I see no bulging or anything on this brass case. I'd say this rifle right here is good to go. Well, I only had one round, but boy, oh boy, was that a delightful round to shoot. I have heard that the 6.5 Jap is a very nice round to fire. I wish I had more than one so I could do a couple of blasts downrange. I am glad that I hit that target though. You guys hear that little ping? It just went tink. That was awesome. But the 6.5, now that I fired it, because this is the first time I've ever fired a 6.5 Jap, it is definitely delightful. Definitely comfortable. I enjoyed every microsecond that that I got to fire that thing. I'm going to go ahead and touch up on the history lesson before. I will say that the 7.7 Jap rifles, those rifles were primarily used against the United States, whereas the 6.5 rifles were primarily used against the Chinese and whatnot. So that, I'm sure, did help a little bit with logistics. Well, I've never fired a 7.7 Jap round, so I cannot say that I prefer the 6.5 over the 7.7. However, what I can say is the 6.5 is absolutely delightful to shoot. There was almost no recoil on that. And the gun was quiet. The gun was really quiet, but that's probably because of the extraordinarily long barrel that we have on this thing. I do wish that I had more ammunition for it. Now that I know it fires, now that I know it is in working order, I mean, there's really not much to do to the rifle. I got a butt plate coming for it. I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit. There's a little bit of rust speckling starting to show up on it, so I'm going to go ahead and, I mean, there's no cosmoline to scrub off. I'm used to getting guns that have a bunch of cosmoline on them to dig off. Shut the hell up, you son of a bitch. If I had another round, you'd be dead right now. You'd be dinner. He's not going to be quiet. It would be nice to get a dust cover for this thing. The Type 38s and the Type 99s, I believe, as well, were issued with dust covers to cover up the Mauser actions. Apparently it did work, but they were discarded, you know, all the time. They were loud, noisy, clunky. Soldiers didn't like having to reassemble their rifles with it on it because it can be kind of finicky. And, you know, it's just extra weight that I guess they decided they didn't need. Personally, I would really like to have one, just because I have plenty of Mauser-style rifles, none of which have a dust cover like that. So, hey, I'm going to see if I can find a Type 38 dust cover. Our rear sight is also missing the wings that the Japanese would use to fire up at aircraft, but I'm not too concerned about that because I don't really foresee me using this rifle for aerial defense at any point in time. I do sincerely wish I had more ammunition though. Let me see, I was told, I got my brass case right here, I was told that these had really weak extractors on them. So we're gonna go ahead, load our empty brass casing back in here, and I want to see just how weak this extractor is. That's not bad. Like, I barely moved this thing around. You don't really have to give this thing any real force to get it to extract. I don't see why people say these have weak extractors. I've seen several other rifles that have weaker. Alright, well, I can see very clearly we have weather coming in. And this long-ass barrel is basically a giant lightning rod while I'm walking around with it, so I'm gonna go ahead and head back inside. Not only that, but I'm out of ammo, so there's really no reason for me to continue to be out here. If you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my channel below. I do this kind of stuff all the time, and I am looking to grow this channel. I'm also looking to grow the channels of my friends and collaborators and fellow gun tubers, fellow activists in the firearm community, or just people that I like in general. So check out the description below. You're going to find a link to USNA 98's or US Navy 98's channel. He does some really cool stuff. Go check him out. One thing he is doing is he is working on an Arisaka of his own, and he goes into very great detail about, well, not necessarily very great, but he goes into more significant detail than I did about the buttstock and why it's a two-piece set on these Arisaka rifles. So go check out that video. It's definitely worth watching, only a couple of minutes, and hey, you might learn something. You're also going to find a link to my second channel. It's a gaming channel. I get drunk and play video games, and I put it up on YouTube. That's my fallback plan, just in case something happens to this channel, because YouTube is anti-gun, and it doesn't matter what I like. If they don't like it, they can say, hey, you, yeah, you, go away. We don't want you here anymore. And apparently I'm powerless to, you know, stop that. We got a couple of lawsuits in the work right now to make it to where they can't censor us the way that they are. So hopefully, fingers crossed, those lawsuits work out. Anyway, I think I'm done with the outro. Check out the Patreon page. I do Q&As on that. I'm due for another Q&A. People are asking how Kevin is. Like, I've gotten a couple of house Kevins for the past, oh, I don't know, 3 months or so. Kevin's fine. Around this time of the year, they shed their feathers and they go quiet. So, like I said, Kevin's fine. I still have 4 of them. They're still wandering around. I'm looking at one right now. They just don't scream like they do whenever they have the full feather set. Maybe they're nervous. I don't know. Anyway, if you have any particular video ideas you want to see me do, by all means, I'm all ears. I'm always looking for content, especially content that is requested by viewers, because viewers want to actually see stuff. And sometimes I put out things that people just don't want to see. I can tell from my analytics. Okay, well, here comes the weather. I can actually see the wall of rain coming over the horizon. So I'm gonna go. You guys have a fantastic day. All right, real quick. I know I normally complain about the bird noises, but we got a couple of baby chickens over there. And one of them is a little baby rooster. And my God, he's doing his first crowing right now. Like, I thought I heard something like the larger rooster was getting sick or some shit, but no, that's the little baby rooster. He's over there next to his parents, the chicken and the larger rooster, and he's crowing just like his father is. That's fucking beautiful right there. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.